Hi, this is Chris Wilson at Wilson Motor Company. If you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, now is a great time to buy during the final days of our 79th anniversary sale. We have reduced the prices on over 140 pre-owned vehicles with over 120 4x4 trucks and SUVs. We can help you find the right vehicle. Check out our inventory online at wilsonmotor.com, but hurry in. Our anniversary sale ends on August 1st.
Wilson Motor Company, we make car buy it easy.
I'm Mike Gavin in for Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, gas prices are dropping but still running very high. Meanwhile, there are a lot of other everyday things getting more expensive that we should be paying more attention to. We'll have the details. Plus, the science behind who airlines bump from a flight and how you can exploit it. And how to inflation-proof your meals. All that and more when Gordon returns Monday on This Morning, America's First News.
Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news, weather, and sports.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Beautiful Saturday morning, last part of July, 64 degrees outside. Couldn't ask for anything nicer.
I say the temperature was the temperature was awesome coming down this morning. I had my windows down on my truck and just
yeah. If only the high was going to be like 73 today instead of 93.
Yeah. It is July though, and so I've talked to so many people, and they're like, "Oh, it's so hot." I'm just like, well, it's kind of July. It's supposed to be 90 plus degrees.
Does this every year? You know,
it kind of does this every year. Yeah, we're fortunate that we're not having the temperatures they are in Salt Lake, because they're in the hundreds, and we've been in the mid 90s just like all month, which is it's been hot, but not abnormally hot. I think
I saw a stat that Salt Lake City has had 35 or 40 days at least in the 90s.
Yeah.
Consecutively, and that's I guess that's a new record for them.
Yep, it's been kind of hot down there. So, yep, that's what happens when you stop watering.
Yeah, it gets hotter. Direct correlation.
That was my sarcastic comment for today. So, yeah. But speaking about heat, it's making the plants grow like crazy. You know, the 90-degree temperatures during the day has been so good for the peppers and the tomatoes that were kind of slow getting started, because as you recall, we had a really cold March, we had a really cold April, we had a really cold May, we had a half of a cold June. I mean, it didn't warm up until
it took a while.
It was about Flag Day. It was about the 14th of June by the time it started to actually warm up. So all of a sudden, my cucumbers are going crazy. My beans are ready to be picked, so I got to get out there and pick beans probably tonight, and we'll have fresh beans for lunch tomorrow. That sounds pretty good. Potatoes are coming on, and I've got cantaloupes that are starting to net already. I mean, so the warm temperatures have been great for the garden, and of course, it's making our flowers grow like crazy too. So.
And we have not had the grasshopper infestation so much yet, have we?
I've had a lot of people.
Have you?
Yeah, tons. Every day I've got probably at least.
I guess just in my area.
10 or 15 people that I personally have helped in the store with grasshoppers. That doesn't include the other ones that I haven't helped. So there's been quite a few of those as well. Lots of bugs. Squash bugs are starting to show up. We're seeing a lot of leaf hopper damage, which best way to describe leaf hoppers is they're kind of like miniature grasshoppers. They're just little teeny tiny bugs, and they hop off around on the leaves. They can actually fly as well too, but they just kind of make your leaves look speckly. So I've seen a bunch of samples of those too. So we're seeing a lot of bugs. We're seeing a lot of weeds. Unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of people who are spraying for weeds right now with the higher temperatures, and then we're seeing some herbicide damage on some secondary plants that they really didn't want. They didn't want to. They didn't want to damage, but with the heat, it makes the herbicide more volatile, and so it will kind of vaporize a little bit in the heat, and then a little gust of wind blows, and all of a sudden your grape leaves are curling up, and some of your shrubs have funny looking leaves on them.
So that being said, there's obviously a time of day that you'd want a better time of day.
Time of day, and even usually we just tell people don't spray in the middle of summer, because even if you spray, like say in the evening and it's like 78 degrees, which is a wonderful temperature for spraying weeds, but the next day it goes to 95, it can still cause problems. And so usually we're like, hey, June, July, August, we probably shouldn't be spraying for weeds unless we have some, a cold front that comes through and it cools things down into the low 80s, because you can do some damage. I mean, one, it can burn your grass, but two, you can have that herbicide volatilize a little bit. And a lot of the really effective, more potent herbicides, they have a little bit of ester in there to help them penetrate into the weeds better. Well, that ester will vaporize, and then it will drift, and then you'll see some damage on nearby plants that you really didn't intend to damage in the first place.
So
yeah, it can happen with Roundup too. We've seen some Roundup damage, so I'm seeing a lot of samples of that right now, and it's just because it's hot and probably shouldn't be out spraying weeds with other plants around. You don't want to damage. So
go easy on the weed killer.
Easy,
now,
but then once we get to Labor Day and we start getting cooler temperatures, end of this month we could be down, back into the low 80s in September for sure, 80s and 70s, and then that's prime time for killing the weeds. It's a really great time to do that.
Now the grass has kind of slowed down as well in general.
Yes, because of the heat. So we fertilized. Usually our third application of fertilizer we recommend is between the 4th of July and the 24th of July. So we just passed that, but it's still a really great time to fertilize. So even though the temperatures are really hot out there and it's a little stressful, and a lot of people's grass is kind of yellowing a little bit, and and gardeners and homeowners in the valley have been very conscientious. They've been very aware that we've had some water issues and we don't need to water as much, and so we're seeing fewer people or more people who have not watered as much. Their grass isn't as perfectly green. It's still green, but it's not like perfect because they've cut an extra watering out or whatever it is. But I'm due to put a little bit of Back to Green back on. So the Back to Green lasts about 60 days. We put ours on around the 1st of June, and so it should be wearing off right now. The Back to Green has that soil penetrant in there that gets the soil so it'll absorb and hold the moisture a lot better. So I think we're going to probably throw some on this weekend, and it's got an extra dose of iron in there, so it'll really green your lawn up without making it grow. And so there's some really great products out there that can kind of control the growth of the grass so it's not growing so fast so you're mowing like constantly, but it will give it that nice dark green appearance, help with the water absorption and retention. I mean, we're usually only watering about once every 3 to 4 days, so we're kind of on a Tuesday, Friday watering schedule right now. And so if you're only watering twice a week, your lawn could be stressing just a little bit, but it's not going to go dormant. It's not going to die or anything. So
when we water, generally for how long each time or each section?
That's a great question, and it depends on the sprinklers that you have. So the pop-up sprinklers that pop up out of the ground, and they spray the entire area all at the same time. So it kind of like sprays in a circle or it sprays in kind of a square pattern. If it sprays in that pattern and it hits all the area that it covers all the time, about 20 to 25 minutes. To put out about a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of water. But with a gear-driven or a Rainbird sprinkler that moves, so the sprinkler moves and it hits different sections at different times as it rotates around, those sprinklers you got to leave on longer. So they put out a higher volume of water, but they're not hitting the same area all the time as they move around. They're kind of distributing the water a little bit differently. So usually we recommend about 40 to 50 minutes on the gear-driven or the Rainbird sprinklers. Rainbirds are the and so those type of sprinklers need to leave them on longer to get a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of water. And what we recommend is 1 to 1.5 inches of water per week to really keep your lawn looking good. And so if you can, figure out how much water your sprinklers are applying, and then adjust accordingly, adjust up or adjust down. And if you can put out, somewhere between a ½ inch and 3/4 of an inch of water with each application, you can do that twice a week and keep your lawn looking really good.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm making notes to tell my wife.
Yeah, and it really helps. It really helps if you mow longer. So if your grass is taller, it's a little shaggier. It's not as trim and tidy looking, but it will hold the moisture a lot longer. So the taller grass helps shade the soil, so the soil doesn't dry out as quickly. So then your grass will stress a lot less. But if you have really shady locations, we recommend you mow closer in the shady locations because it keeps your grass spreading horizontally instead of getting those deep roots that on the grass. And in the shade, you want it to spread horizontally because it starts to thin out over time. So that really does help quite a bit. A lot of things happening at Anderson's this weekend. We've got, of course, greenhouse construction going on. So if you're coming in today, just be aware that we've got some sheeting that we've taken off of our west greenhouse, and they've got most of that put back up. But there is a little bit of construction going on, so just be aware of that. We'll direct traffic as necessary, but we're very excited for the upgrades on the greenhouse and upgrades at the back gate, so the checkout area will be a little bit more protected as well too, so we're kind of excited about that. It's a perfect time to get this done before the weather changes. And Wednesday market still going on. I believe that's going on through the end of August. So the Wednesday market, we've got all kinds of vendors down there. There's food, there's pizza, there's all kinds of people out there on Center Street offering all kinds of different products. So it's been kind of a fun summer with the market going on every week. And of course, we do a class every Wednesday. Well, it's not quite every Wednesday, but 2 to 3 times a month. We've got our Wednesday Lunch and Learn class. And this week on August 3rd, the USU Extension's coming in. It's going to be J.D. Gunnell, and he's going to be talking about how to make your own fresh salsa. So he's doing a fresh salsa class.
Because we try to do that, and I'm always looking for kind of new recipes or new ways to do that. So where do you hold those?
So we have a classroom at the store. It's upstairs, and our classroom is upstairs, so we can direct you up there. It's at 12:15. So we start at 12:15. Class
and
goes.
You provide lunch, of course.
No, we do not.
Oh, okay.
But you can come and get lunch on Center Street.
There you go.
And then go to the class. That's the whole idea.
Lots of food vendors there, and I'm going to have to check that out.
If we provided lunch, we would probably have to charge for the class, but this is a free class. It starts at 12:15. J.D. Gunnell from USU Extension is coming, and he's going to be teaching how to do fresh salsa. So if you're interested in that, this Wednesday, we've got the Wednesday market going on, and a lot of great plants on sale at Anderson's. We've got herbs are $1. We've got the rest of our annual flowers, like our 4-inch, are $1 as well too. We've got perennials on sale for 20% off. We've got roses on sale for, I think they're 25% off on the roses, and they're a great time to plant. I mean, as hot as it is, it's still a really good time to get out there and do some planting, and plants will do fine, even though it's hot. We just got to make sure and plant them correctly. So we got some great sales going on at Anderson's. Compost tea is still brewing, so we're probably, I'm looking probably about mid-August, somewhere between the 15th and the 19th is probably when we'll run out of compost tea for this year. So we got about, honestly, we got about 2 weeks of compost tea left, and we're gonna run out of product. So, but that's pretty normal. About the time school starts is when we usually end up running out of compost tea. So just a heads up that you got about 2 weeks left of compost tea, and then the season's about over. But plants are doing great. We've got a couple ripe tomatoes. They are cherry tomatoes, but we've got a couple of ripe tomatoes. I've got a Sun Sugar that's got 2 or 3 on there, and I've got a Sweet Baby Girl that I grew myself that I saw some red tomatoes on there last night. So
all right. There you go.
Starting to happen. Yep, starting to happen. I do have some of my Brandy Master plants that look absolutely amazing, and they're covered with blossoms, and they just are barely starting to set fruit. So it has been definitely a slow season this year getting those tomatoes going. But
how about watermelons in our valley? How big do the watermelons generally get here in Cache Valley.
You know,
northern Utah?
it depends on the growing season, but normally we can get full-size watermelons. Last year we grew watermelons. I had probably 3 really nice watermelons last year, but I had probably close to 100 cantaloupes. So the cantaloupes just went crazy, and we were harvesting cantaloupe like mad. But the watermelons, they're tricky. I had a customer in yesterday asking about how to tell when the watermelons are ripe and are ready to pick, and it's a little bit trickier with the cantaloupes. Usually you can just kind of tug on them, and if the vine kind of clings a little bit, but then they detach, then they're ready. They're ready to go. There's a couple varieties that are exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, cantaloupes, once they, when you tug on them gently and they just separate from the vine, that's when
Cantaloupe is telling you, I'm ready.
Exactly.
To be on my own.
But the watermelon, that's a different story. The watermelons are tough.
Is it kind of the hollow sound that they make when you tap on them?
There's 2 indicators on the watermelon when you're picking them. You know, at the grocery store, you can tap on them and kind of get that hollow sound. But when you're picking them out of the patch, the watermelon, there's 2 things we look for. One, the underside of the watermelon where it sits on the ground is normally white. So during the growing season, it'll be white. Once the watermelon starts to ripen up, it turns kind of a creamy color. So we watch for the underside of the watermelon to go kind of a creamy, not quite yellow, but kind of a creamy color instead of bright white. And then there is a little growth that comes off the vine of the watermelon right close to where the watermelon is attached to the vine, and it looks like a corkscrew. So it's a green tendril that kind of curls around like a pigtail or a corkscrew. And once that growth kind of turns brittle, so it turns kind of brown and dries up and is brittle, then that's the other indicator, and you want both of them to show up, and they won't necessarily show up at the same time. You could have it go kind of creamy on the bottom, but the pigtail or the corkscrew is still green and flexible. When they both are indicating, then that's usually when the watermelons are ripe and ready to go. So it's a little bit more tricky, and even then, if the underside's kind of creamy and the corkscrew gets kind of brittle, even then sometimes they're overripe or not quite ready yet. So the watermelons are tough.
All right.
Yeah, they're hard to tell. So anyway, phone lines are open. We'd love to have you join our conversation on the Garden Guide today. 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. So phone lines are open. Lots of things happening in the garden. We've got some great things happening at Anderson Seed and Garden right now. We still have an awesome selection of fruit trees. So we've got those amazing fruit trees in from Oregon. So we've been very excited about those. This is usually a time of year where we don't have fruit trees at all. So if you're thinking you want to plant some fruit trees for fall, that's going to happen. And of course, our cash sales coming up at Anderson's as well, too. We'll probably start that here in the next couple weeks as well, too. So it'll be fall clearance time. And we usually do a discount on our plants, and then we give you an extra discount if you pay with cash, and helps with our credit card payment bills.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't realize, that every time you use your credit card somewhere, the vendor has to pay a percentage of the credit card. So we end up paying a lot of fees, and it gets old after a while.
And that's why a lot of businesses are just cash or debit.
Yeah, they're just saying, hey, we're not doing that anymore, because it gets really expensive. So we do our cash sale. So not only do we not have to pay fees on it, but it gives our customers an opportunity to save a little bit of money as well too.
So now with the Center Street Market there, this is what, the second or third?
This is the second year.
Oh, okay.
Yep, this is the second year. So
over last year to this year, have you seen a lot of growth?
More people?
That's
a great question. In June, we saw lots of traffic. We really saw a lot of people coming down, and then it's been really hot in July, and so it kind of cooled down there for a couple of weeks. But it seems like this week we saw a lot more people. So there were a lot more people there. I don't know if it's because of everybody takes off early for vacation in July, or there's like a lot of family reunions, or who knows. But it just seems like the first 3 or 4 weeks of July were really, really slow. But we also have a couple holidays in there as well too. And then this week it seemed like it was much busier. So we'll see how it goes, and as hopefully our temperatures start to cool down a little bit in August.
Yeah, we might get some storms next week.
Monday, Tuesday. It kind of looks like we've got some storms coming in, so that will be a nice relief and a welcome a welcome change.
St. George
to
is
our
having
weather.
too much
Deluges.
Yeah. We're getting nothing.
I saw the flooding in Las Vegas too. So lots of water comes when
and there's no place for that water
there's
to go.
Nowhere for it to go. Yes, there's just nowhere for it to go. Phone lines are open 753-5868 753 KVNU, and we've got lots of things to talk about here on the Garden Guide. Mark Anderson with Anderson Seed and Garden. We've been talking about watering your lawn. We've been talking about harvesting. It's a really great time to start planting some fall crops. So usually by the end of July, 1st of August, we're recommending that you recycle some of that garden space that has been used already for this year. So peas are done. We just tilled up our spinach the other day. Spinach and lettuce is all gone. It's like it's turned too hot, so it's all gone to seed. So we tilled that all up, and we've got all this empty space in the garden now. So this is a really good time to plant some extra crops. So we're getting probably a little bit late to plant corn. Corn usually takes about 60 to 70 days. You might be able to get it to produce by the end of September. We're kind of on the borderline for corn. However, beans only take about 50 days. So you plant beans right now. Beans are going to be ready by about the 20th of September. So you can have a nice fall crop of beans. Our first frost generally is the last week of September through the first or second week of October. And so in many cases, you can get those beans to produce really, really well. If you plant them at end of July, you can have those before our first frost in the fall. But all your cold crops can go in really soon as well, too. So spinach, lettuce, kale, radishes, broccoli, cabbage. A lot of people plant their Brussels sprouts in the fall because they're maturing in September and October when the temperatures are cooler, instead of producing like right now when it's really, really hot. They don't produce very well. So like last night we planted our broccoli really, really late. It was about the 1st of June by the time we got our broccoli planted, but I've got a heat tolerant variety. It has just started producing heads right now, and they have been discolored. They've been white instead of green because they're getting so much sun. And so as the temperatures start to cool down, those plants should be kicking out some really, really nice broccoli. So I'm kind of excited about broccoli coming on for fall. So great time to get out there and plant those fall crops. Like I said, beans, all your cool crops, kale, spinach, lettuce.
Probably too late
radishes.
for peppers, right?
Too late for peppers and tomatoes. Yeah. They're just not going to mature with enough time to harvest before we get some frost. And one frost and the peppers and the tomatoes are toast, so they're not going to like that. But if we start getting frost in September, late September, early October, and your spinach and your lettuce and your broccoli are going, it won't affect those at all. And actually carrots and beets, you can plant carrots and beets right now. It takes about 75 days for those to be ready, and that's mid-October. So mid-October, those carrots and beets, they'll still be maturing. They'll be doing great.
Yeah, and weather's still generally pretty nice.
Yeah, it is, and all the way through October, if the weather's nice, we can continue to get pretty good production off of a lot of our vegetables. But these cold crops, we continuously will recommend for people who want to plant late, or if they're just trying to reuse some of that space that they've used up already. End of July, 1st of August is perfect time for planting all those cold crops again. So if you've got our planting guide, Group E is fall, and it's all your cold crops that you can plant to have them going on in September. So it's good, good time to do that. So phone lines are open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. And I know there's got to be some questions out there that our listeners are wondering about their yard or their garden. And
now, one thing we haven't seen around our house, speaking of, we were talking about bugs earlier and everything, but I haven't seen the box elder bug as much in our general area.
Depends on where you're at. So we've seen a lot of elm seed beetles, which kind of appear like box elder bugs, but they're smaller and they're brown. And then we've seen a couple different waves of box elder bugs coming through. In fact, I've got a bunch at my house right now. But as soon as we start to get a little bit cooler temperatures, about first part of September, I think we'll see an explosion of box elder bugs again. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye out for those. Fortunately, they don't do much damage to your plants, and they're basically eating the seeds off of the box elder trees. And so and that's the way the elm seed beetles are. They like the seeds off of the elm trees. But when it comes to the box elder bugs, not much damage to the plants, but they're a huge nuisance.
And they get in. They like to hang out inside.
Come inside the house, and they just have to make themselves at home, and that's kind of how that works out. But we have some really great controls for the box elder bugs and for the elm seed beetles, and for squash bugs. If you've got squash bugs, and we haven't really seen aphids kicking back up yet, but we will see aphids coming, and probably in August and early September. So we'll want to start preventing for those as well too. Leaf hoppers have been bad, and grasshoppers are still just going crazy. So I got lots of people with grasshoppers. So we're going to take a short break here at the Garden Guide, but you're welcome to call in with a question or comment, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News update this weekend. It's brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Utah State officially kicked off fall camp with its first practice of the 2022 football season Friday morning on the USU practice fields. Second-year head coach Blake Anderson, who is in his 9th year as a collegiate head coach, was pleased with his team's performance on day one, saying it was a good and solid day. In all, Utah State welcomed over 100 players to its first practice, which included 12 starters as part of 32 letter winners to go along with 49 newcomers, including 16 four-year transfers and 7 junior college players. One of those returning starters is graduate senior quarterback Logan Bonner, who is entering his second season in the program after setting 5 school records a year ago, including 3,628 passing yards and 36 touchdown passes. Utah State, of course, will be opening up the season coming up on Saturday, August 27th, when it hosts Connecticut, and then the week after, it heads to Alabama to face off against the Crimson Tide on September 3rd. And public health officials say that a southwestern Idaho resident has contracted monkeypox, marking the state's 3rd reported case. Southwest District Health made the announcement in a press release on Friday, saying that the resident was from Canyon County. Local and state officials are working to identify any close contacts of the patient and let them know of the exposure risk. Monkeypox usually causes mild illness, which lasts 2 to 4 weeks, but antiviral treatment is available for people who might have severe disease or who develop complications. Well, looking at mostly clear skies with hot temperatures through this weekend, as daytime temps are going to stay right around the mid to low 90s, with overnight temperatures staying right around the low 60s. I'm Will Feelwright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports, I'm Brian Clark. It was the Aaron Judge Show in the Bronx Friday as the Yankees hosted the Royals. In the first inning, Judge robbed a home run from the leadoff hitter, MJ Melendez. Bottom of the third, he went deep for his 40th home run of the season. The cherry on top came in the bottom of the 8th inning with the bases loaded.
The pitch. Swung on and hit in the air to right field. It is high. It is far. It is gone. It's a grand slam. He's having the most amazing season you could possibly have. He grand slams into the right field seats.
John Sterling on WFAN as the Yankees came back to beat Kansas City 11-5. Judge is tied with Babe Ruth for the most home runs before August. Barry Bonds has the record, 45 in 2001. This is ABC Sports.
Are you a good listener? Has anyone ever accused you of being a problem solver? Someone who likes to help others have success? If so, the Cache Valley Media Group would like to talk to you. Have you ever posted something on social media that had all your friends and family laughing? Have you ever fought off a bear? If so, let's talk. Not necessarily about bears. We just think it would be a cool story. Here at the Cache Valley Media Group, we have a ton of fun helping businesses grow, and we could use some more help. So, if you or someone you know has marketing and advertising experience or any of the previously mentioned skills, please send your resume to sales@cvradio.com. That's sales@cvradio.com. Or drop it off at our office Monday through Friday between 8 and 5. The Cache Valley Media Group is an equal opportunity employer and scared of bears.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the second year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online, advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
From gardening to landscaping, The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And we are back here at the Garden Guide. This is Mark Anderson with Anderson Seed and Garden, and we're taking your calls, answering your questions. A lot of things happening at Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend, so just be aware we've got a little bit of greenhouse construction going on, so shouldn't interfere with what's going on, but we've had to move some plants around to make space for our greenhouses to get new coverings on them. So it's been 20 years since we built our greenhouses, and part of our one west greenhouse, the corrugated polycarbonate needed to come off, so it's a great time to do that. Hopefully we won't have any more leaks in our roof during the rainy season.
Even greenhouses need maintenance.
They do need maintenance, yes. And then we're adding a little bit of greenhouse to the back gate, so it'll be covered. So even if we have poor weather, we can keep things going there at the back gate, because we'll have that nice covered section, and should work out really well. A lot of plants on sale. We've got perennials are on sale for 20% off. Bloomed out perennials are 70% off. Our remaining herbs are $1. We've got a few annual flowers left that are also $1, so we're just trying to clear things out and hopefully find some homes for some of these plants. Roses are 25% off, and we have had our hydrangeas on sale for 20% off as well, too. So it's a good time to come into Anderson's and take advantage of some of the sales we've got going on right now. Compost tea we're still brewing, and we got a couple weeks left of that. And, stop in to see what's happening at Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend. So a lot of things happen with the Wednesday market coming up this week as well, too. We mentioned that our Lunch and Learn class at 12:15 this week will be fresh salsa. And J.D. Gunnell, USU Extension agent for Cache County, will be there, and he'll be sharing recipes for doing fresh salsa. So we're kind of excited about that. So, all right, Bill, we've got a couple callers now. So,
first up is Dan from Newton.
All right, good morning, Dan. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
So, about 3 years ago, I bought a whole bunch of garden seeds. And most of them I planted like carrots and tomatoes and stuff, and hardly any of them come up at all. So I got asking around to people that are better gardeners than myself, and they said, well, your seeds are too old. And then I got so much information. You should have froze them. You should have put them in the refrigerator. Don't put them in the refrigerator. Then I was in the store, and I seen that Augustin's food on the shelf, and they have a seed packet good for 25 years, and I'm totally, I don't even know where to go with this. So can you tell me how do you store seeds, and are they bad or what? I don't even know what to think.
That is a great question. That's a great question, Dan. Okay, so if you want to go the old-fashioned way, you can store seeds just in a cool, dry location. So I've got mine in a shoe box, and I'll stick them down the basement where the temperature is consistently cool, pretty much all the time. And for the most part, a lot of your seeds will not lose much germination for multiple years. So for 2 or 3 years, you will lose minimal germination. In some cases, we'll tell people just plant a little heavier than you would normally. So if you started at, like, say, 90% germination, which is pretty average for a lot of the seeds that at least we sell at Anderson's, we like to have our germs higher than 85 to 90% when we're selling them. If you lose, say 10 or 15% of germination, you're down to like say 70% at the worst. And so 7 out of those 10 seeds are still going to come up. And so you just plant a little bit heavier, and then you're in good shape. But cool and dry is what you want for conditions. Colder is better.
Okay.
Yeah, colder is better. But unfortunately, your refrigerator and my freezer, they retain a lot of moisture. And a lot of times the moisture can do more damage than the cold can do good. And so you've got to be careful putting them in refrigerators or in freezers. You've got to make sure there's no moisture in there because the moisture can cause a lot of damage. And so vacuum packing them with a moisture package to pull the moisture out of the air that's still inside the packaging, that will make them last longer. They will definitely last longer. And some of those packs that you see that say they'll last for 25 years, they have vacuum packed them for storage for a little bit longer. 25 years is kind of a lot, but there's been seeds pulled out of ancient burial grounds that they've planted and they've still germinated, so it just depends on how they're stored and how they keep. But some varieties really do last a lot longer. Peas, beans, and corn, they will keep their germ a lot better than, like, say, lettuces and cabbage and broccoli. So some of the cole crops and the lettuces, their germ doesn't hold as well, usually a couple years, and then it really starts to taper off after that. I've had customers come in. Yeah, I've had customers come in with packages of tomato seeds that were probably at least 15 years old and may have been older. And the reason we could tell that they were that old is not because of the date that was on the package, but because the company had gone out of business 15 years previously. And so, and they're like, do you think these are still good? It's like, only one way to find out. It's like, let's plant them. And they actually had pretty good germ off of those as well, too. So tomato seeds hold their germ well also. So it varies a little bit depending on the variety and depending on the storage location, but you should be able to get 2 or 3 years out of those without too much trouble. So I'm not sure why yours just didn't want to come up.
Well, I had them out in the garage where it was hot.
Yeah. Yep.
Not knowing any better.
Yeah, the heat's harder on them, and moisture's the worst on them. So cool and dry is the way you want to do it, Dan.
Okay, thank you so much.
You are welcome. I hope that helps dispel all the various
cool and dry
information.
I won't worry about freezers and all that.
Yeah, it's really nice if you can get them in the freezer, but sometimes I get freezer burn on stuff in my freezer. It's just a lot of moisture in there, just inherently, and so just keep them in a good, cool, dry spot. You'll be good for years.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your expertise.
You're so welcome. Have a good one, Dan.
You too. Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. All right, who's up next, Bill?
We have Kim in Logan.
All right, Kim, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Hi. Thank you. I appreciate all your help.
Oh, thank you so much.
I feel like I'm still a novice. I keep trying, though.
Hey, I'm learning new stuff all the time, too. So, it's like I'm constantly learning new things. So,
I have a couple of questions. When is a good time to move some irises and put them in a different location?
Excellent question. Right now.
Oh,
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect time to do iris is the latter part of July, first part of August. After they're done blooming, you trim the flower off and leave the flower stem up, and then the flower stem will kind of dry up and it feeds the bulbs back. And the end of July, great time to dig the iris up, trim them down. Take all of the leaves off. Leave about 2 or 3 inches of leaves left on them when you dig those up, and you can separate them out so that you have at least a fan of leaves on each piece.
Oh, okay.
All right. So as long as you got a fan of leaves on a piece, you can cut those all into smaller portions so you can control them a little bit better, because you're going to dig up a giant clump and it's going to have 5 sets of leaves on it, and you can just cut the clump apart so that you have 5 pieces. As long as you got leaves on each clump, you'll be in great shape. And then you give about 20% to the neighbors, and you give about 50% to the people down the street that you don't like, and you still have tons left over. So
do I need to plant them right away, or do I have a little leeway to prepare the next place for it? Or
you do not have to plant them immediately. I would put them in some sort of container and try and put them in a cool, dry spot. Put them down in the basement somewhere. Don't leave them in the shed. It's pretty hot in the shed right now. But cool and dry, you should be able to store those for multiple weeks if necessary.
Oh,
and
okay.
usually replanting them right now is great. Replanting them in September is great. So don't push it too far into the fall. But
okay.
Yeah, that should work out excellent.
Excellent. The other question I have a section of my yard that we changed into a flower garden, and they have grown and spread and all of that. I don't know how to rejuvenate the soil in there because there is just...
You got so many flowers, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do that without tilling them all up or damaging them? So usually what we would recommend is if they are they mostly perennials? So they just come back year after year. Okay, this fall, when the frost hits, trim those all down to the ground. Just like trim them and get rid of all the excess growth because they'll come back from root system again next year.
Okay.
If they are way overgrown and you need to get them under control, September and into early October is a good time to dig those up and divide those and replant them at the same time. A lot of times we don't want to do that every single year. Sometimes it's every 4 or 5 years in between. That's a good time to rejuvenate the soil when you dig those up. If you are kind of in that spot where you go, I don't really want to do that this year. That's a lot of work. You can still mulch them and improve the soil that way. So I have a really great product. It is called Garden Max. The Garden Max is a very well composted, ultra composted compost, and you can put about 3/4 of an inch of that over the top of your perennials and just kind of rake it into the soil, and it will recondition your soil. It'll put a lot of organic matter and nutrition back into the soil, and it's one of the very best products that we have ever used for rejuvenating some old, tired soil without having to take all the plants out and add a lot into it and then till it all up and then put them back in. So it'll save you some work that way. Yeah, it's called Garden Max.
Okay, Garden Max.
Yeah, I love the Garden Max. And we've rejuvenated a couple of my dad's flower beds that way with it, and the next year the plants just performed so much better. It's crazy how much better they did.
Okay. And I have one more question.
Yeah.
I got the Monterey Complete Disease Control.
Right.
I have a problem on my tomatoes, and I've been spraying it on there. Can I keep doing that every week, or is that too much?
You can keep doing it every week. Since it's a natural bacteria, it will not hurt the plant, won't hurt you. And in fact, I'm going to start spraying my squashes, melons, cucumbers with it, because if we get that moisture next week, we start getting that higher humidity, we're going to see a lot of powdery mildew. And the mildew really gets aggressive in the squashes and the melons and the pumpkins and the cucumbers. And so very, very safe to use that product like the same day that you want to harvest. So like I treated my tomatoes with it the other day, and I've got tomatoes ready to pick, and I'll just pick those tomatoes, rinse them off, and eat them. No problem. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I took so much time.
No worries. Thanks for calling this morning, Kim.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. We've got some phone lines open. Some phone lines are full. 753-5868, 753 KVNU. And who's up next, Bill?
We have Carl in Weston.
Right. Good morning, Carl. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I just got a couple of silly questions. The first one, the first potato in my potato patch started dying off this week.
Yes.
And I thought it's kind of early for that, but then I dug it up, and I've got, all of my potatoes have got just little bites out of them. And I've used 7 on top.
Yeah.
Is there something I need to spray down in the dirt to take care of underneath?
Good question. Depends on the variety of potatoes. If you've got some earlier potatoes that you planted, like, say, Norland, they will start dying down the end of August. Not the end of August, the end of July, first part of August, sorry. They are a 90-day potato. So if you planted those, mid-April, latter part of April, they're probably ready to go. Some of your later potatoes, like Pontiac or Norcota, some of the russets, they are 120-day potatoes, so they won't be ready till the end of August, first part of September. So that kind of makes sense to me. The bugs nibbling on them. What does it look like? I mean, does it look like there's a chunk that's like completely gone, or does it look like somebody's just kind of tunneled around on the surface of the potato?
just kind of tumbled around on them.
Okay. That might actually be a disease instead of an insect. There is a fungal disease that gets into the soil, and a lot of times we introduce it into the soil by putting a lot of steer manure into our garden. We've had it in our garden pretty much since we put steer compost on a few years back, and it's called scab, and it's really common in the potatoes. And the best way to control a scab is to lower the pH of the soil with sulfur. Sulfur is kind of a natural fungicide, and it kind of controls the scab a little bit. But if you can get the pH down, our soil pH is really high around here. So sulfur is great for bringing the pH down, and it has that natural fungicidal property to it. And then when I plant my potatoes, I cut them the day before and let them heal overnight before I plant them the next day. And then when I plant them, I treat them with a fungicide as well, too. The complete disease control that I just talked to Kim about. I mix that up in water. I water my potatoes with that, and that will help fight the diseases off so that you won't get that in your potatoes next year. And so we broadcast a little sulfur over the area where we're going to do the potatoes, work that into the soil when you're planting, treat them with the complete disease control, and cut them the day before, and you should clear up 95% of your scab for next year.
Okay, yeah, these are Pontiacs. They're still fairly small potatoes, but anyway, I'll see what I can do with that.
And the stress, the hot summer has been kind of detrimental to the potatoes too. My plants look really good, but they've just dried out so much in between my waterings. Like the soil's not holding the moisture quite as well as I would like it to. That my production on my potatoes isn't quite as good as I'd like. So I'm kind of right there with you, Carl. So,
all right. Other question.
Yeah.
I live out away from town. I've got a 7-foot high fence around my garden area, and that keeps the deer out. But then the skunks and raccoons start coming in, so I put chicken wire up 4 feet.
Yes.
And last night, something got in, and it looks like possibly raccoon, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is there something you can do, or am I doomed?
The raccoons, we lost about half of our corn crop last year to raccoons and skunks. And we trapped, I think it was 13 skunks and 6 raccoons last year. And I live right on the island in Logan. So, we have a natural animal preserve down there. So we use the live traps for the raccoons, and that seems to be the most effective way to do that. There are some repellents that work really quite well. Probably my favorite all-time repellent is the motion-sensitive sprinkler. There's one that's called the Scarecrow. I've got a different one at the store, but they pick up the motion of the critters when they come through, and then the sprinkler turns on. And not only does it scare away deer, but it scares off raccoons, and it scares off skunks, and it scares off the neighbor's dog, and it scares you when you forget that it's out there and it's on. And they work amazingly well. The only problem is you got to leave your water on. And so it's like turn the water on. If your hose is not good and it pops a leak, then you got water all over the place. But I'll tell you what, those things work amazing for very difficult to control pests that are coming in there. And raccoons are about the smartest animals that are out there, and they'll figure it out. You put up a fence, they'll just climb over the top of it, and or crawl underneath it. And I mean, they can foil a lot of different methods for repelling a lot of other rodents and animals that are getting in there. So
okay,
hope that helps.
I'll check into that sprinkler.
Yeah,
I thought either that or a light.
Yep, the lights work really pretty well because they're sensitive to the light, and the sprinklers work awesome. Little cold water spraying all over the place, everybody runs.
Okay,
all right,
good to know. I'll slip in and pick up one of the sprinklers and give it a try.
Super, thanks, Carl. Hey, appreciate the call.
Okay, bye.
All right. We've got time for a couple more calls, Bill.
Up next is Kendall from Richmond.
Good morning, Kendall. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning. I had a question about my corn and all my vine crops like cucumbers and pumpkins.
Right.
The pumpkins, they just kind of wilt like they're in the middle of the day. Am I not giving them enough water?
You know, as hot as it's been, mine are kind of wilting a little bit by the end of the afternoon, but as soon as the sun goes down, they perk back up. So as long as your plants are perking back up when the sun goes down, you're in pretty good shape. I am watering my pumpkins and squashes and melons about every 3 to 4 days. So I watered on Monday, but by last night, actually by Thursday night, they were really wilty, and so I watered them. But usually 3 to 4 days ought to be great. If they kind of wilt down a little bit during the hot part of the day, but then they perk back up at night, you're usually pretty good.
Oh, then, and the corn, it kind of reaches up and
curls
looks like it's.
The leaves kind of curl a little
dying.
bit. Yeah. So same thing with the corn. I'm trying to force my plants to go an extra day, and so I'm watering about every 3 or 4. And I had a row of corn that I watered Thursday night, but I couldn't water the other 2 rows of corn until last night, and they were doing the same thing. They were curling a little bit. So it was about 4 or 5 days since they'd been watered. So yeah, but they'll perk back up. I checked them this morning. They got watered last night, and they were happy little campers this morning. But it is time to fertilize the corn. Mine's starting to tassel just a little bit, so I got to throw some more fertilizer on. It's been 2 weeks. So straight nitrogen on the corn, give it a good watering, and hopefully we'll be picking corn in about 3 weeks.
So I have my stuff on a drip system, and I have it set to come on every day. And it's only a half a gallon for an hour.
Okay,
is what the drip emitters thing are. Is that?
You could leave them on longer. So I have drippers on all my squashes and my squashes and pumpkins, and it works great. The drippers are amazing. I leave mine on for 3 hours, and so I let them soak in a lot deeper, especially with the squashes and the zucchinis. They use a lot of water, so you can water a lot longer, but you wouldn't have to do it every day. Like I said, I'm doing mine every 3 to 4 days, and I'm leaving them on for 3 hours, and they are all 1 gallon an hour per 1 gallon per hour emitters, and there's multiple emitters on each plant.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, give them more. Yeah, you're probably not giving them quite enough. Give them more. Soak that soil down. It'll dry out on the surface, but it'll hold the moisture down deeper a lot longer. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling, Kendall. Have a great weekend.
Well, you too.
All right. Can we sneak one more caller in?
Yeah,
Bill?
I think we can get to Janet here from Franklin.
All right. Good morning, Janet. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Glad to hear it. Hey, my garden actually, for getting planted late and all the problems, looks fantastic. Yeah. So I've kind of been just watering it and then watching it grow, and I was late, so nothing's really on too much yet. And then my tomatoes, which are as tall as me and looking fabulous, did the usual yellowing and starting to scent. And so I've only got 3 plants that are doing that. I've been looking it up. I don't know if it's the Vercillium wilt or the one starts with an F.
Fusarium.
I don't know. Yeah. Don't they always just have to be yanked? There's no saving.
Pretty much. The verticillium plugs up all the capillaries and arteries in the plants so that the water and nutrient doesn't move. And so basically you can water and fertilize your plants, and they just all of a sudden look like you didn't water them for a week, and they just keel over and die. So that's kind of what verticillium looks like. Fusarium is similar. There are some other diseases that can be problematic as well too, but I mean, it could be just right now it could be just a little bit of stress, but if they continue to do that and they look like they're just dying, get rid of them, because the bugs will pick up the virus and spread it around. They'll spread it around. So but I treat my plants with the complete disease control early on, like right from the minute we plant them, and I treat them every 2 weeks all summer long, and it seems to take care of all the verticillium and fusarium that my dad's garden has picked up over the years, and we just haven't had any problems with it. So
really, that's my problem. So at this point, though, there's no way. It's just done. And I've done a ton of my compost tea and all that stuff, but which they hung on for a super long time. But
the compost tea really helps. That really helps. But if you add the complete disease control in with your compost tea, it will take care of a lot of those diseases before they even show up. So that would be helpful.
But once they fill up like this and they start to stunt, then just get rid of them.
And it's too late. Yep. All right.
Okay.
We got to call it a day, Janet. So thanks for calling in.
Okay.
Have a good one.
And we have Sharon and Virginia hanging, but they can reach you at the store, of
yes,
course.
absolutely. Sorry we couldn't get you on the show, but thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate all the listeners. Hope your gardens are growing great. Like I said, we're harvesting beans and zucchinis and cucumbers and stuff like crazy, so I hope your gardens are doing the same thing. And we'll be back again next week here at the Garden Guide with a lot more information for you. Don't forget to come see us at the Wednesday market, and a lot of sales going on at Anderson. So have a great weekend. We'll be back next week.
6:10 a.m. at 102 FM.
Best part of my day.
News Talk KVNU, Logan. Proud to be locally owned and operated by the Cache Valley Media Group.